All right, everybody, welcome to this edition of Rambling Rivals. I'm David. I'm joined by Cam from Everton Tampa. Welcome, Cam.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's going good. I'm looking forward to Saturday. So before we get started, do want to put this out there again. If you're thinking of coming to the match, be sure to definitely come out for this one. So there's a little bit of a special occasion. We're doing something new, working with Everton Tampa here at Tampa Bay Cop Talk to put together a food drive. It's going to go to all the food goes to Metropolitan Ministries. Be sure to come and donate if you can. If you can't, there's going to be a link down in the comments or in the description. Be sure to donate virtually if you can. Cam, it's really cool that we get to do this together. For a long time we didn't have an Everton group to work with, but this kind of reflects the spirit that you find on Merseyside.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is only our second year as a club, and it was definitely something I've wanted to do down the line. And Andrew came and checked our spot out last week and kind of talked it over and got the wheels rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Bay Cannon's cool, man. I watched one of the Lightning games there when they were going. It was like Game 4 of the Stanley Cup, and I think it finished like 5-4, and they do like free beer shots for every goal. And my wife was like, "Wait a minute, like, is there a lot of goals in hockey?" And I was like,
Right.
"Well, in a Lightning game, there can be, yeah." It was funny because the next morning we were a little hungover.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a great selection on tap, and I mean, definitely some good beers to start the mornings off with, and
for sure,
especially with this upcoming event we got going on this Saturday. If you RSVP to the event that we've set up on Facebook, Bay Cannon will be doing a breakfast buffet for the game as well.
That's right.
So it'll be a pretty solid setup.
Yeah, and the food is really good too. So
the only thing I've had there is the wings. No breakfast food there yet.
Oh man, I can't wait to try the wings.
Oh, they smoke them, and then it's like a dry rub. It's pretty damn good.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah,
I love a good wing, man.
Oh yeah.
All right, so this is Rambling Rivals, so we'll get straight into it. Big game this weekend. Feel like I don't even know how to feel about it because Everton are top of the table. So.
I don't know how to feel about it either. It's kind of uncharted territory.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a funny feeling looking up at them, but Everton have been on a little bit of ever since Mashari took over. Things have been changing quite a bit.
Right.
Kind of take me through this last transfer window in terms of how you felt, because they did some things. They made some positive moves. Obviously, getting James is a great move, but they didn't. I always feel like they would just buy. They'd always have one purchase in a window where they just bought a guy to buy a guy. Not that they necessarily need it. Like, it was just like try to make everyone feel good.
Right. Yeah, we got a few of those.
Yeah. So I think, but this window didn't necessarily feel like that. So kind of, what was from your perspective as a supporter, kind of how did you feel about this window and their their strategy for it?
Well, I mean, first off, they just had a completely different feel. I mean, Carlo coming in November or in December and taking over was kind of nobody expected it. When the coaching rumors were going around, it was never would have thought it would have been him. I was myself was eyeing up Arteta pretty nicely, but if he wasn't going to go to Arsenal, I would have liked to have had him. But going into this window, all the names that have been rumored starting back in January, it's just kind of wild to hear. And there's always a few of the big names that are always rumored around Everton, and it never really unfolds. But just the name recognition of Carlo Ancelotti just attracts talent. And right off the bat, when we were first rumored with Allen, the price kind of scared me away, but Marcel Brands and Carlo have been together and really kind of put a tax sheet together and got all these players for way less than I think they were on the market.
Yeah. That's kind of like a thing too with Carlo, his impact, kind of how does that change the mood around the club, even from us, just a supporter viewpoint, obviously is huge for the players, but for you as supporters, it's a big upgrade on your last manager, Silva, I think.
Right.
So, I mean, look, when he took the job, I kind of went, oh.
Yeah.
I was
I
like,
think a
oh,
lot of people
that's
did that.
interesting because
Right.
they have money right now. They've got money in the bank. So if you give Carlo enough money and enough resources, I mean, he's proven time and time again that he'll generate results.
But like I
So
probably like you probably thought as well. Like I mean, he's attracted to usually goes to the teams that have already have the established talent and are already at that top tier level, competing for Champions League and trophies in their countries.
and it's an interesting choice for him, not just because of that, but also because I think he sees there's a lot there.
Yeah.
You just got to get it going. It's kind of like what Klopp saw when he looked at Liverpool. It's like, well, there's a lot there. If I can tap into that and boost it to where it needs to be and get it consistent, then, you have a big product. It's so kind of how would you, I guess, yeah, the original question was kind of like, how does it feel? How do you change the mood and kind of the culture around the club at the moment?
Well, I think he's kind of right off the bat really embraced just like the Everton like spirit and culture of the team, with bringing back Duncan Ferguson after his interim stint, where you could really see he was just re-energized the club himself. Putting someone him like back on the staff really, I think bolsters the support right away from the fans in Liverpool. But yeah, it's crazy to feel like this the whole last half of the season. He had to work through the kinks and the ups and downs of a team that really hadn't had a lot of success. And this summer was a nice reset for them to come back and kind of reassess their goals and move forward.
So you start the season, you're obviously top of the table, but you've beaten, and I'm not, okay, you take Tottenham on day one. That's a nice get. That's a big one. But since then, you've taken like West Ham, I think Brighton and Crystal Palace are your victories. Do you feel like going into this one that it's kind of like the measuring stick, like this is going to be a defining moment?
Absolutely. I mean, and I know that like you said, Tottenham out of the gate away was a very impressive win to start, and then games where we're playing West Brom where they score an early goal and go up 1-0, but we show the backbone to come back. And even in the second half, when we revert back to our old ways and they're putting free kicks and a man down to even the score, we find a way to score another 3. And I think that's just the big difference. Is it looks like when we go down or if they come back and tie, we don't look like we're about to just curl up and die. We're ready to keep pushing forward. So I mean, this will be a good test. Thiago and Mané are supposed to be back, right?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, so that'll be the test. It's a full forced Liverpool squad, so we're looking forward to it.
So, in terms of you always see like an evolution under a manager, and with Carlo, I think it comes in this midfield is starting to feel a little bit different. You mentioned there that they didn't wither when against West Brom, that they stood up to the test and they kept on going. And I think it's interesting because what looks different to them so far, to me, is they seem to have a little bit of metal that they didn't have before. And, James obviously helps with the creativity going forward, but that midfield seems to be evolving. What are your thoughts on that in terms of, like, what's been the key to getting that going and sparking that change?
Well, I think when we lost Idrissa Gana Gueye, I don't know if we ever found a valid replacement for him to be that holding box-to-box midfielder who will go in there and make tackles nonstop. And Sigurdsson, when he first came in, was really able to feed off of that. I think it's just a combination of maybe some out-of-position play in the Silva era, but this midfield, Allen, is just an animal. Just watching him cover ground is something that we haven't seen in a couple of years, and it gives confidence to Gylfi and other midfielders like Tom Davis, who probably didn't feel like they had the go forward when they didn't know that they had cover in the back.
I think when I first started looking at the roster this year, I thought, well, they're having some success now, but is that going to be sustainable? But it's interesting the way he's doing it, the way he's kind of going with these it's almost like shifts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like he'll do, is it Davis, Sigurdsson, and Decore, and then the next one is Allen, and I'm blanking right now.
Yeah.
But
So
he
then,
changes up the midfield configuration,
yeah,
kind of, a little bit based on the opponent, but also just based on games. So I think that's got to be encouraging from you guys' perspective, because an injury to one guy isn't going to
right.
end the season.
And I think towards like in the second half of the season, he was working with the roster that was given to him, and we've kind of played in a 4-4-2, and we've come out this year playing in a 4-3-3 with James up on the right, and then kind of Allen playing behind the two other center mids. So, and then that allows reborn Seamus Coleman and Luka Dean to get up the wings, which is probably the deadliest part of our game. Allows them to get the balls into Calvert-Lewin.
That's really, that is what, particularly Dini is, what he does best.
Yeah.
So in terms of, so you've gotten a really nice start out of Calvert-Lewin. I mean, I didn't see that coming, but I think maybe this evolution to a 4-3-3 and kind of getting him, with James there now. I'm just imagining, I've played enough defense in my life to know that a guy with that kind of skill on one side, the workhorse in Richarlison on the other side, it's going to stretch you out. Yeah. And then you've got this kid who can finish in the middle. I got to ask, what do you think his goal tally is this year if they stay healthy?
Well, it's funny because they asked Carlo after one of the games what his expectations were, and he's expecting 20 from Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin, and I think 20 is an actual number that he can get to. I know he's not going to stay this hot forever. He'll probably cool off, but I mean, coming out like this, he's already got himself. I think he's at 9 goals in all competitions, and I think 6 for Premier League.
Yeah,
but
6 and 4.
Yeah, and I just was looking back just over his the last couple of years, and he went from 2018 scoring 8 goals in all comps to last year scoring 15 in all comps, and now he's already at 9. So the improvement is there, and that was one of the things that I see on a lot of message boards and a lot of people back in England harping on how, as he's coming up, he wasn't a very good finisher, wasn't very clinical in front of net, and that's just really something that, I mean, doesn't really come into question now. If the ball's in the air and he's anywhere in the box, it's pretty much his ball.
I imagine he's a big hit with the taxi drivers union in Liverpool.
Right.
Have you ever been over?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I actually went over for. I was actually getting ready to go for the Merseyside this past year before the COVID outbreak.
Brutal.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, no, I feel like every time I get in a car in Liverpool, the driver's an Everton supporter.
Yeah. Well, when my wife and I, we went while we were over in England, and same thing, told him that we're from Tampa, and he's like, what the heck are you guys doing over here? It's like, love you guys.
Oh yeah. Was it winter time? You'll definitely get that.
It was a New Year Day game.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, was it like the FA Cup?
No, it was actually EPL game against Leicester, and
that's a good one.
1-0 Leicester win, Vardy goal. We didn't get to see a goal, but Vardy scored.
I didn't get to see a goal my first trip to Anfield either. It was a 0-0 draw with Man United, so Mourinho was the boss. It was brutal. Yeah. So what I guess my next question is, what's the ceiling for this year, do you think? Kind of where are you expecting Everton to go over the course of 38 games? I mean, this is a nice start, but
right.
There's always peaks and valleys in a season. So,
I mean,
what's the ceiling on what they could achieve?
At this point, I mean, if they can keep up form, a top 4 finish would be great. But realistically, I think they're a top 6 team. I don't know if they're jumping into Champions League right away, but who am I to say if they keep this form up? But in the long term, I don't see why, like Klopp did at Liverpool, a building project, and if he's got backing from the front office at every window, then I don't see why in the next couple of years we wouldn't be a top 4, eventually competing for a title. Because he said he wants to be there through the move to the new stadium as well.
Yeah, and that's scheduled for. I'm trying to remember the timeline for that.
I think they start building in like 2021 or 2022.
Okay. And then it's open by 2024, is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So he's looking at a long-term project.
Right.
It's interesting because I think this year is, when you look at United and the shape that they're in, Tottenham are pretty inconsistent. Arsenal and Everton are the two that are, and Leicester as well. They all kind of have to be looking at it in the same lens. And I think maybe Everton's view of it is kind of shaped by how they've started. But if they can sustain this for a little bit, this is kind of a good year to sneak into the top four because Chelsea have defensive woes. They've signed so many new players. You've got to figure that there's going to be chemistry, like a betting in period, so to speak. So I think this is a good opportunity for Everton if they can manage it to sneak into the top four. And then, from there, who knows?
Absolutely, and I think it'll come down to just seeing how. I mean, if we could take a couple from the top six teams, but seeing how we play against those teams like right outside the top six, like Wolves, and I guess Aston Villa this year has decided that they want to turn it on. Yeah, it's just if we can get over those humps, because those are the ones that kind of set us back, is the teams that we should be either level with or taking the next step by, but always kind of get pulled back by.
I was in London at Stamford Bridge the day that the signing of Christian Pulisic was announced from Dortmund, which was a crazy drunken-filled evening of celebration with my fellow Americans that we somehow landed this player who you thought United will eventually get him, Liverpool will eventually get him with a Klopp or BBB overlap. Maybe that's where he ends up going. And knowing that the club actually had been scouting him for years as a considered talent, as someone that they viewed as being worth bringing into Chelsea, and everyone looking at the fee initially, everybody making the jokes that he'll be at the test by the second window when he's not getting time. Every American pundit saying like, "Oh, he's not going to get time. He's never going to get the opportunity." To watch him find some initial success, fall out due to injury, struggle a little bit, work his way back into the side, and have just a tear of results in the restart, just absolutely lighting the world on fire. Definitely our player of the restart era. He's leveled up his game. He is so direct. He is so fast. He is unafraid to shoot, unafraid to be selfish, has really, and I just think now you have potentially a front three of just assassins on the pitch when you think about Pulisic, Werner, and Havertz maybe, or, if you had Ziyech and then Havertz plays maybe more centrally as like a 10, that is a fast and clinical group of attackers that, just like Liverpool have developed with, Firmino.
We had our
Mané,
Fab Four. You could have Fab Four.
Yeah, you need to have that type of infrastructure if you're going to go out and bully the league around.
So, Moshiri's been the owner a couple of years. Kind of, where are you guys in the journey with this owner? Because you have your managerial sense so that you're always on a journey with the manager. But I think we're all seeing, especially given recent news, we're always on a journey with the ownership group too. And,
Right.
What is the fans' kind of take on him, and where do you guys feel like how do you feel about his tenure at the club, and where do you think he's going?
The overall feeling from the club, I feel is very receptive to the money that he's willing to spend. I was going back and looking at numbers and at our old transfer pickups at each window, and he came in 2016, and that window the key players we brought in was Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Idrissa Gana Gueye. And then the following season was the bringing in of Marcel Brands from PSV. And I think that's when it's really started to take shape. And he's, in his first year, brought in Gylfi, Keane, Pickford. And then, there's a handful of others that made it but don't make the cut for the 11 or sometimes even the squad. And I think that's what's kind of changing as well as we're hitting more than we're missing now on our signings. And I think now that Carlo is matched with Marcella and Muschieri, they're on the same page and they have a comprehensive view of what they want, and it's all coming together. And especially in these last three windows, picking up Richarlison, Luka Dean, and Gomez in one, and then following that up with this window and just revamping the midfield.
He signed a keeper this window too, actually, a backup, right?
Yeah, I mean, Pickford's really stressing out a bunch of us, and it's kind of starting to wear thin. Just, I mean, games like in the Carabao Cup game, I think it was against Fleetwood Town, which we won 5-2, but 2 goalie errors gave them their goals, and those are one of those games where, again, Fleetwood Town sneaks in and would probably either take the game, or I don't know, we'd sneak out on PKs or something. But it's getting kind of nerve-wracking watching them anytime the ball goes in the air to them.
Yeah, he amazes me sometimes. For a guy whose job is to be able to touch it with his hands, it's not very good with his hands.
Well, I always get a good kick out of the on Men in Blazers. They're talking about just how tiny his hands are, and he's got the shortest little arms. And that's, I mean, it's crazy.
So I was kind of wondering, like, can this new fella maybe press him? I don't know. We'll see.
Then, yeah, in all honesty, I don't know too much about him. I just know that he was the Sweden goalkeeper, and that I think he's like 30, 31 years of age. So he's not someone who is a long-term fix, and if Pickford doesn't work out, but hopefully he'll apply a little pressure and make Pickford step his game up. I mean, he's also getting pressure from England, so.
Yeah, I think that's the plan. I just don't know how that's going to work out.
I'm thinking it's probably either like a January or next summer as another goalie.
Another keeper, okay. Well, I mean, there will be options, I think. There's a couple keepers down in the championship who aren't half bad. There's, and then we'll see what happens with the market. We're all in this weird COVID world too, so it's hard to say, like, what kind of money is going to be on the table and player valuations, and it's all just
right.
Very bizarre at the moment.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be, Liverpool, Everton. I got to give you some banter here.
Yeah.
So the question that we came up with for this was, you only get to erase one of the following, but you have to watch the other on a 24-hour loop. Mané 96 or Origi 97?
Oh my God. What was the first one?
Mané 96.
Oh, that is, geez. I couldn't watch the Origi one on replay. That one is just insane. Yeah, so I'd have to go with the Mané.
Okay. I did watch it on a 24-hour loop once.
I was gonna say watching that game. I think because I had a couple friends over too who I'm trying to get involved in. I think they watched my meltdown.
I mean, it was funny because we had all. I remember the pub I was at. We had all basically just conceded, like, oh, all right, 0-0.
Yeah.
Credit to them. They came here. They did what they did. They played well that day. Everton, to their credit, played really well that day. And I was like, they deserve it, whatever. And then when Virgil hits that ball, everybody just goes, check, take the check. And then that happens, and just everyone lost their minds.
It was like indescribable. And then when they show the replay, how far the ball was, it was going over the net, and he we flipped it back in.
What did you do?
Oh,
we're like, what was he thinking?
It was brutal, and that's another gaffe. I think they were saying he's got the most goalie errors since 2018. So
yeah,
it's brutal. And it's hard to even talk banter because we're in a spot where I don't know what to do. I feel like we've got a team that almost matches up pretty evenly, and this is kind of a new feeling going into this one.
Yeah, no, it's Goodison's not been a very friendly place to us, even when there's no fans. So it's one of those games that I'm always when y'all come to Anfield, I have the expectation that Liverpool should win.
Right.
But when we go to Goodison, it's sort of like, you kind of look at it and you go, if you come out of there with a point, it's not the worst thing in the world. It's a difficult game. You know it's going to be physical. When there are fans, you know they're going to be up for it. So it's just one of those environments where you're like, hey, man, a draw's acceptable.
Yeah, and hopefully sooner than later they'll be able to get fans back in there, because to have them behind this team would be even more incredible, and they deserve to be in the stadium and watch that team play.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've waited a long time for them to be very
4-0.
good. So. Hey, we've waited a long time, and it's disappointing that like they had to celebrate a title and no one could be there. So I can relate, because I was just like, I've been lucky enough to see this team a few times in the last couple of years, but I'd love to get over again and see them again, just because I can remember Christian Poulsen and Paul Konchesky starting in our starting 11. So like, this is just really boss. And this team feeds off of crowds a lot, this Liverpool side. And so I can't wait for them to get fans back in the grounds, but of course in the safest way possible. So.
Absolutely. And I was going to say Anfield is another one of those where if you come out with a point, you're lucky.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for coming on and joining us. I'm looking forward to Saturday. I will definitely have to chat a bit before the kickoff, before I get too deep into breakfast. So.
Absolutely. And yeah, for anybody who shows up, like you said at the beginning, you could bring your canned goods there, and we'll take them over after it's all said and done, or it has the link set up on the event page, or we'll be tweeting it out. I'm sure you will be as well. It's got the virtual link on there as well, and you can donate through that as well.
If you're watching this on YouTube, again, check out the description. It'll be down in there. All right, well, thanks, Cam. I'll see you Saturday.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Cheers.
See ya.